everybody, it's Cheryl Carlette. Welcome to another episode of The Chair. Today we're talking about the only. So whether you are the only woman doing something, the only man doing something, or you're the only kid in the class who likes math, or however it goes. But today we're talking with Cheryll Brown, and she is the only woman, I believe, in Rochester or upstate New York that has the luxury mobile barbershop.
Yep.
So she's gonna show us a little bit about what she does and how she really pimped out her ride.
So the exterior tools I have here is just the awning and exterior speakers. The speakers are for when we do outside events and things like that, and the awning as well, so I thought about that. And we also have lights in there too. And also this is the first 4x4 Sprinter they ever made. So the year that I got this, I have the first one in the city that's 4x4 to deal with our snow, right?
All right.
So once you come in, we have custom chairs here. So these chairs are custom by the builder. Everything in here is custom, actually. So back here, we have a sink, and this is where I do all my magic here, clippers. And the sink is up under here. And then we have the chair here, that's custom. And I also have a sterilizer here and a towel warmer. And over here, we have this wonderful vacuum cleaner. So I'm going to show you, I don't know if you can get a close-up of this. Down here, but this sucks up the hair in here. It's not on. Got the generator.
Oh, that's okay.
But yeah, so
you're just saying that this is a luxury experience.
Yeah, it is a luxury experience. So pretty much once you come in, it's a whole service. So you get the cut, the wash, the cut, the massage, complimentary drinks, foot massage, and that's it. And me.
And you. Awesome. Yeah. So we'll be talking with Cheryll and then also Kate Washington just about working in a male-dominant environment. Take a listen.
Like right now, I'm the only, I think the only person on the East Coast with a luxury mobile barbershop.
Right.
I know there's someone on the West Coast, but I'm literally woman-owned, black-owned, and the only, and I love it.
Yeah.
For now, I could teach people, so yeah.
And then Kate, you were the only years ago.
Yeah, I mean, I think I've been the only in so many situations. You know, when I was young and I was younger, I was the only black person I knew who played the violin. And I played the violin and I played classical music. And then when I went into, and I traveled playing music. And people always like, oh, you know, interesting. And then when I went into business, I was always in an environment where there was all white men. And I was the only black person and the only black female. So I can think about being around a conference table on many, many occasions where I was the only. So,
talk about that. I mean, how did you feel in those situations?
Well, I mean, I felt, one of the things I learned was in any situation where you're probably new or you're the only one of the first things you do is observe. So one of the things I learned most was that I noticed that there were similarities in every situation. I don't care what the meeting was about or what the topic was or where I was. I watched patterns of behavior among men, especially among men in business. And what I learned was one of the things that they do is they communicate differently. They tend to they tend to always they establish a relationship by one-upping each other. It's like somebody will say something and somebody else will counter, and they do. That's just kind of the pattern, but that's accepted among the culture of men in business. But that's how they do it, and they can debate an issue for any length of time where everybody has a different perspective and nobody will really agree. So what I learned from that environment was that I could watch that and wait till they get to a point where there's an impasse, and I could summarize everything that took place in that meeting and actually move the conversation forward. So that's how I was able to generate the value I could create in a meeting, was to not try to compete in that kind of situation, because they were already competing with each other, because that's how they communicate, right? So I didn't want to compete with that, but I just wanted to listen and then be able to take a salient point and move it forward so that the conversation and so the resolution of the discussion could
I
come
wish
to
I
an
could
end.
be like you. I usually just leave.
You leave?
I leave. Like, okay, my experience with barbershop, being the only woman in the barbershop, I always felt alone, you know, and there was that clique thing going on
Sure.
too. And I used to come in and just do my business and I'm out. Because I never felt, you know, when I was teaching, I felt there was a togetherness, but pretty much it was always like, to me, I felt like they were trying to compete with me all the time. I felt always like somebody was trying to.
So you were
compete with
teaching
me.
where?
In a barbershop. I was working, but I also taught in a barbershop and I also taught in school. I'm pretty much self-taught. Like, you know, when you barber and you can somebody can teach you in a book, but you can't really, it's something you have to do and just practice. So I was practicing for years. And can I tell the story, Carla?
Yeah, you can tell me.
So I was about 17, 18 years old, and I was doing women's hair starting at 9, and I wanted to do barbering. So I had, you know, family members who were barbers, and they used to tell me about Colette all the time, and I'm like, I want to be her. Oh my God, there's a woman doing. She's the inspiration for all this. You don't even know that.
No,
but
I
you
don't.
are.
Like, this
she
is just...
never knew. She was the inspiration for all that. I knew that a woman was doing it. I never met her, but you were like the light that sparked. I was like, women do cut hair? And I was like, I'm going to do it. And I started working under my cousins, being the only again. And people were like, women don't cut hair. And I was like, yes, I do. Colette cut hair on Thurston, and I'm going to be the next one. And so I just kept going with it over the years. Being a mobile barber, it's a whole different ball game, because it takes me at least an hour to get prepared before I go to my client. So you have to make sure you have gas, you have to make sure everything is locked down, you have to make sure you have everything, and make sure, most importantly, you go to the bathroom. Okay?
That's true. There's no bathroom on this.
I didn't do that because there's a lot more, like, I'll talk about it in the video, but there's a lot more to do dealing with bathrooms on your unit. But pretty much, I'm here and I'm learning day by day. So this is a learning experience and I love it. I love learning, but overall is worth it, and it's so much fun. Like, you get to get out and meet people. I have people chasing me down the street. It's so fun because they know it's a barbershop in here. So you have grown men running after my truck. Like, I was like, okay.
I got men chasing her.
Yeah.
Literally.
Hey, let me see what's in there.
I was just thinking too, like, when I first started, when you were mentioning about being the only woman in a barbershop and you felt alone, but I'm 17, and I had to go in there and bring 2 of my homeboys from high school to show as models that I knew what I was doing, because some of the guys were like, oh, okay.
You have to prove.
I had to prove myself. But you know, it's just, and that was like at 14 or 17. So I had to prove myself to the barbers that I could be in their male environment. Then I got in there, but then I had to prove to all the clients that I knew what I was doing. And I had even small kids, 10 years old, 5, and their mother would say, why don't you go sit down in the girl's chair? And they're like, they didn't even want to do it. And they're thinking, well, she's a girl. We don't see that. Even one of the barbers that I went to, and I told them I was interested in doing it, and he said, well, just to let you know, the clippers are kind of heavy. Those clippers weigh maybe what, a pound, 2 pounds?
I heard that too.
They're kind of heavy, and maybe the 111s, like the turbos, the bigger
like
ones,
these 'cause they're lighter.
they're lighter. And so that's a little sexist. That it's heavy, so I can't do it.
Can't hold them 1 pound.
Today I had the same situation because I go out, you know, pass out my flyers and things like this. So a guy came in, he sat down, he's like, wow, this is nice. And I told him, I've been cutting over 20 years, right? He was like, can you cut? Let me see the stuff that you do. And I'm like, I've been cutting over 20 years, so I was wondering, like, if a dude said the same thing, would he have said that? That's always a thought.
That's true.
That's what I would say, because then I would get a lot of women who would say, oh, those guys are just sitting in your chair because you're a woman. Or you're pretty. And so it used to piss me off, where I felt like, what if I put a paper bag over my face and just wore, you know, clothes and I blended in?
I'm gonna
people would
say,
take. I would still be
Right.
able to cut just as well. So there was always that
That's
where you had to
true.
prove yourself, and then I kind of got to the mind frame. I'm like, I cut better than some of these dudes, so
But
whatever.
it's the thing, like when you go to a beauty salon, and there's a guy in there doing women's hair. They don't
Correct.
have to prove themselves.
No, and they almost
Right.
get more credit.
Yeah.
Because they'll say if a guy
They
is
would
doing
rather
it,
have 'em
they'll say
do
he
that.
does very well.
But this is the thing. What I've noticed, I'm just saying, sorry people, but I've noticed that women cut hair better than men. Most women that I've dealt with, is more detail.
Well, that's something I say.
Yeah. Well, I'm not surprised because I think, I think the just inherent sexism in the world is really based on the fact that people haven't really considered women as just being capable individuals and human beings. They are used to seeing people in certain areas. For example, when my daughter was young and she started playing the trumpet, and I had a guy say to me one time, "Girls don't play the trumpet." I'm like, there's nothing anatomically that stops a girl from playing a trumpet any more than it stops. But it's people's mindsets, you know? And you're right about having to prove yourself even more just because of people's own stereotypes about what they've seen in the past, and so what they think about in terms of your capabilities. And capabilities are really neutral. They're absolutely neutral. People can do anything. It's just that people are only accustomed to certain things.
And I like that when
Yeah.
people think I can't do it. That
Yeah,
pushes me even
exactly.
harder.
Me too.
Yeah, it does. Me too.
Because when I got into the barbershop, I had the idea. You don't tell people about your ideas, but I was so excited. I told a few people, "You gonna do that? Where you getting money to do that? And how you gonna do that?" And they don't put barbershops in trucks. Like, that's stupid. Why don't you go ahead and just get a building? Like, everybody told me that.
Right.
And I was like, watch me now. I'm really going to do it just because people are thinking it's not possible. So I researched it for
Yeah.
a little over 8 years. I researched how to do this and how I was going to. I had no idea I was going to do this. Really. 20 years ago I had the idea. It probably was a little bit more than that, but I had the idea. I wrote the idea down. I forgot about it at one point, and then I got back on it, and I did it. And I'm just like, wow! I couldn't believe I did it, but I did it, and that shows you that women can do whatever we want to do if you put your mind to it, and hard work.
Kate, I'm sure for you, just even being a musician or in the business world, what are some of the things that men used to say to you?
Well, I'll give you an example. One of my first jobs in business, I worked for. I had a consulting business for about 20 years. But before that, I actually worked for a consulting firm. And one of the things that they did when they were recruiting people, it was a room full of men. And I was that was myself, and there was another woman in the room. And the way they did their screening process was they would give you all these tasks, and people who couldn't really complete the tasks, they would eliminate them. And I remember men coming up to me and saying, "If you need help with this, then come and then I'll help you." Because you're there for like a 2-week training. So they were like, "Oh, come to my hotel room," and I would help. And there was the other woman in the class. I will actually say that this person was struggling a little bit, and people were calling me by her name. So there was we were interchangeable. It didn't matter. Whoever the woman is, you could be that name. It didn't matter. You were just like this person who you were viewed as incompetent. And as it turned out, at the end of the training program, I actually ended up at the very top, and all of the project managers were competing to get me. And these are the people who were coming to say, "Oh, I can help you with this," because I guess they figured I couldn't do the math.
Yeah.
And it was like I was blowing everybody out of the water with the math, and they were like, "Ooh!" And at the end, all the project managers, when they were hiring, they were competing to get me. And the people who were asking about, "Oh, I can help you with this if you need," and I'm like, you're making assumptions. And then the fact that you were identifying me with the other woman as well, that just said to me right there that people had no concept of who you are. They didn't think of it that way.
Yep.
And so that was one thing. And another, I can tell you another scenario. I was out at dinner with one of my clients and with another project manager that I was working with one time, and they were sitting there and they were going on and on and on, and they were talking. They were talking about projects, but they were competing like they do. But it was after work situation. We were at dinner, and the guy was going on and on about how he had bested this client and told him, "I'm going to take your money," all this stuff, just competition. And I was sitting there thinking, as I was listening, trying to figure out how do I extricate myself from this, when at one point tears started welling up in my eyes. And I said, and at that moment I recognized this is what is meant by the term bored to tears. I never thought that that was a real thing, but I remember being so bored with listening to them going on that tears welled up in my eyes. I couldn't stop it. And then the guy looked at me and he said, well, what do you have to say about this young lady? And I said, you know, I have nothing to contribute to this conversation at all. Because I was like, you know, do you guys even hear each other? And I'm not saying that that's all situations, but those were a couple situations where I was thinking, do you even think about really what's going on here, that there's any value really taking place in this conversation here? So I think that there's opportunities to really just stand your ground and be who you are and not get absorbed by whatever other people's stereotypes may be. And I've learned to do that really well because I've had to, because I've been placed in so many circumstances where if I didn't think that way, or if I didn't know how to transcend those situations, it could easily be very detrimental to your health, really. But you have to be able to just know this is who you are. None of this applies to you. You don't have to participate in it if you don't need to, and find a way to graciously extricate yourself from the situation.
All right, thank you for watching another episode of The Chair. Make sure that you like, share, subscribe, and even comment below. And I also would like to hear your own only stories, whether you're working in an all female environment or male environment, or you're the only whatever that might be, only person that eats certain things or doesn't eat certain things. I would love if you could drop me a comment in the comments below, or drop me a message in the comments below, or maybe just do like a little video, a little 10-15 second video, and drop it below, because I would love to hear from you. So thanks for watching, and stay tuned to see who's next in the chair.